Hello and welcome, Dota fans, to episode 2 of FletchDota, your one-stop shop for anything and everything Dota 2 related. I am, of course, Fletch, your purveyor of infinite wisdom throughout our journey on what many refer to as the metagame. Hey guys, how y'all doing tonight? I actually have something a little bit different planned tonight than I did last night. This is, of course, episode 2, June 24th, I believe. Yeah, June 24th, 2014. This is officially the second episode going into FletchDota. So we've done it, guys. We did episode 1. It was a great success just because I got it done. That's what's most important. When you start something to actually do it, that gives you that just gives you all the confidence in the world to come back and do it a second time. So here I am again for night number 2, and I mentioned I've got something a little bit different planned because yesterday I was all excited and I had all this bright and happy news. Today we are somber. Today is a terrible Tuesday, and I will get to that shortly. But first, I want to start with the beautiful day that I've had. I started out casting some Dota this morning, and I said, you know what? I've got to cast 3 games of potato tier Dota. So I got up out of bed early this morning, and I got up to cast European Dota. I'm like, who am I going to cast today? We'll cast Turtle Masters. I'm going to cast Turtle Masters all day today. I get to game 1. It's a 3-round series for group stages for the GG League. Turtle Masters opponent doesn't even show up. They say, come back in an hour. We'll do round 2. So I went and made breakfast. Life gave me time, and I made muffins. There you go. So I had a nice breakfast to start my day today. That's a beautiful way to start your day. Then game 2, cast Turtle Masters. It was a 10-minute GG. Nice and simple, easy to manage. So no big deal. And then game 3, everybody was tied up for the teams that were moving on, the teams that were leaving, so didn't even have to play game 3. So I cast one 10-minute game today. I thought I was going to cast several hours of Dota this morning. I only had to cast 10 minutes. Great way to start your day. But getting into that somber news, guys. Somber news about Dota 2. Unfortunately, for all of you Filipino players out there, not just of Dota 2, but of League of Legends as well, Dota 2 and League of Legends is under the sights of lawmakers right now in the Philippines to be banned because it has been inciting violence. Internet cafes have been full of riots of League of Legends players and Dota 2 players just like smashing each other over the head with their keyboards. And the Philippines has had enough. So the lawmakers are stepping in where the parents won't do their job. They said, oh, don't worry, the government's here to help. And we are just going to ban Dota 2 and ban League of Legends. Now, whether or not that's going to happen or not, I'm not entirely sure, but the law is actually out there. But how many laws do we have in the world? I think there's laws in Minnesota that say you can't smile on a Sunday. So what does that really matter? So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Of course, if you guys want the link to the full article behind that, I will give you all the full link to check it out. It's on it's actually a K-drama site, K-drama stars. So kdramastars.com, your ever popular news source for Dota 2 related articles. They are always up to date on what's going on in esports. I really just think Eastern news media in general is pretty up to date on the actual esports scene. I think it's pretty big in China when you have billionaires just shoveling out millions of dollars to buy Dota 2 teams. I think people are going to take notice. So Philippines right there, directly influenced by China. I guarantee you they know exactly what's going on with esports. And I don't think when you have a country that has a largely dependent, I want to say, economic system based on other countries and their commerce, and then you have an opportunity for people to bring in wealth through outside means like a video game, I don't think you want to get rid of that. Maybe the Filipino lawmakers should think twice before they completely trash an economic opportunity for their... I don't want to say struggling because I'm not too sure if the Philippines is struggling, but I feel like a little island probably doesn't have the wealthiest player base. So maybe the Filipinos need to just keep in mind, hey, millions of dollars, Dota 2 team brings that millions of dollars back. And maybe you should encourage that. Maybe you should really focus on getting more Dota players in the Philippines and find maybe just ban League of Legends in the game shops. Maybe that'll stop the violence. So along with that, we're going to go ahead and do our regular international update. I just want to go ahead and get this out of the way We are at $9.9 million. We are about to hit the $10 million mark. We will probably hit that tomorrow. I'm really hoping to announce that to you guys tomorrow. $10 million victory prediction taunt. I have no idea what this means. If anybody can explain to me what victory prediction taunt means, it says you can perform a voice taunt with your hero in the early stages of the game and keep track of how many successful predictions you made. When are you ever going to go, GG, we lost at the beginning of, well, actually I take that back. People do that all the time. You have like the Juggernaut, and then someone picks PA, Invoker, Outworld Devourer, and who else really tops that off? A Ricky. It's always the Ricky last pick. And he goes K, and you're like, oh God, what have we done? But you have brought the curse of Gabe Newell upon you, and that's when you're going to drop a GG we lost. And maybe you'll be right. Maybe a victory prediction taunt comes with a loss prediction taunt. I don't see why it wouldn't. I would certainly want to bring a loss prediction taunt if I was adding a victory prediction taunt. I would want to be able to have Axe go, we lost, boys, before the game even started. That would just complete my Dota experience. That would bring it all home for me. Or you can just see it now. Arteezy streaming, goes mid Naga Siren, and just drops a GG we lost from his own hero on Naga Siren. She just screeches it out in that horrible grating voice that she has for everybody to hear. I think that'll be every single game, and he'll have like a 0% success rate on his predictions because he always wins. The guy just picks Naga Siren, and it doesn't matter how much his team feeds, he's going to win. I watch the guy sometimes, and it's like, he'll be playing in a pub and he'll go, you know what? I need to gain some MMR back. I'm only playing Tinker, or I'm only playing Naga Siren. And that's after he's like playing a bunch of Wind Ranger, winning, losing. And he's like, okay guys, time to win 300 MMR. And he just starts picking one hero in a row and just goes straight back up. It's crazy that people can do that. But it's also kind of important. Big topic today, big topic along those same lines. MMR trenches. People talk about, hey, I'm stuck at this level because I play with terrible people. And there's a good article that just came out from pastemagazine.com, and I'll go ahead and throw that in the chat for everybody if you want to follow along. But they wrote an article, Adventures in Matchmaking, the Myth of the Trench in Dota 2. And they've got a lot of good resources there about some players that went through and examined the trench, how Valve's MMR system actually works to pair you up with other people, and the theories behind it. Along with that, if you let me swap over here really quick. So here's the article. They mention a player that took a 2900 MMR rating. We've got actually, let's see, I've got one of them over here. There he is, all the way over here. We've got Juice. Oh, PlayDota. For those of you who don't know, PlayDota.com is like the original Dota forums. This is where everybody used to go. This is where Toby1 used to hang out before he had joined Dota. So this is like really old school Dota players who have been theory crafting forever. And then of course all the new guys that hung around are like, we need Dota 2 keys. This is where to come to beg for them. There's millions of begging threads. I think they made a whole sub forum just for begging for Dota 2 keys. This guy, Juice, got a 2900 MMR account, 2900 calibrated MMR. There's the name right there. I'm not going to read that on stream, but there you go. You can actually see it, 2930 solo rating, and he boosted it. He said, you know what? The lowest I've ever been is 5400 rated. I expect to be able to take this account up to 5400, no problem. And he went through and documented the whole process of him doing it, and he went right back up to 5400. He's like, look, guys, I think he had an 83% win rate when he got done with it. So obviously, if you belong at a rating, you're going to get back to it. People who say, oh, I'm only 2k MMR because of my terrible teammates. It's not true. And that's what this article covers. It covers a lot of the, really it's a psychological syndrome. I think a lot of people like to dumb it, what is it, Dunning-Kruger's, I think, where people think they're better than they are. And I think I think the simple term for it is just ego. Personal ego is in the way. People don't want to admit they suck. I think one of the most popular Dota guides that people suggest for brand new players is Purge Gaming's Welcome to Dota, You Suck. That is the gist of what you need to know to get better at Dota 2. And along those same lines, we had a player that got a 4700 account. He's actually a 3200 player, got a 4700 account, and he's like, hey, well, maybe I can move up. Maybe I can hold at 4700 because I've got a higher account. The guy dropped back down. He had like a 45% win rate. And the games he played, He went out of his way to try and be as little impact as possible. He was playing a number 5 support every game so that he could slack off and hide. And even if he fed, he could just blame it on being support. Something very important I want to bring up, guys. A lot of people out there go, it's hard to raise your MMR if you're support. I don't accept that reasoning. And the reason I say this, if you look at the leaderboards, on the leaderboards, this isn't just mid players. You've got Fear, who's a carry player, and you're like, oh, but that's still a core. But every single tier 1 support player has hit 6k MMR. Peter Pan Dam may have dropped back down a little bit. I think he hasn't been playing as much, and I think he was back down to maybe 5,800 the last I saw. It looks like he's not even on the boards because he hasn't been pubbing since they've been out of town. But where's my little guys over here? I was gonna highlight some for you, and I lost them. Well, I completely lost my supports. I think I'm on the wrong leaderboard. I think I had that one open for RTZ hanging up there. So over here, these are the ones that are still playing, of course, because they are in Europe right now. I think some of the... So we got Empire Vanscore. You've got Vanscore. You've got Always Want to Fly. You've got actually Fly. You've got Universe, who does play offlane, and that is kind of a core. You've got Fly right here from Fnatic. These supports all hit 6k MMR, and they're support players. If you watch PPD on his stream, he's hanging right around 6k all the time, and he's playing support in these games. But the thing is, he makes himself have an impact. He doesn't just slack off and say, oh, I'm support, I can feed. No. He makes kills happen if they're not coming to him. He has good game sense. He has good awareness of where he is and how to make an impact, when to roam, where a ward can actually turn things around. There's a lot to supporting, and it's really not the worst person on team shouldn't be playing support. It should be the best support on team should be playing support when you get to these high tiers of Dota 2. There's a lot of people at lower tiers who just say the worst person's going to play support because you can afford for support to have little impact. But really, that's not the case. If you don't have a support making an impact, then you have the enemy supports having an opportunity to roam around and destroy your team, and that's not what you want. So don't use playing support as a crutch for having low MMR. I really think what you should do, if you're struggling with your MMR, watch replays of yourself. If you've ever watched Twitch chat, any professional player stream, go in a professional player stream on Twitch, and I guarantee you, every single 2k MMR person in that chat spots every single time that professional player doesn't swap his power treads, that he misclicks, that he misses a last hit. Every single little mistake, they will notice it because they're just watching, they're not actually playing. So they don't have the tunnel vision, they don't have the blinders on. So if you take that and apply it to yourself, if you watch yourself play, you will see how retarded you look when you're standing AFK in that laning phase. You're like, why am I standing around doing nothing for 5 minutes? Why did I miss 200 last hits? Why didn't I go gank mid? I had ward vision of him coming up, and I could have stopped him right here, and we could have got a double kill. Why didn't I do that? That's what you need to do to really improve on yourself. You need to recognize your own mistakes, and a lot of people aren't willing to watch that. Now, I'm not going to say you have to get better at Dota 2. It's okay to be a casual player. That is perfectly acceptable. But you shouldn't make excuses for it. You should just accept it. Say, look, guys, I'm bad and I'm okay with that. But don't say, hey, it's my teammate, because it's really not. You have to recognize that everyone on that team, yes, they're bad, but they're the same amount of bad as you are. And everyone on the enemy team is just as bad as you are as well. So if you play better than everybody in that game, you'll move up until everybody in that game is just as bad as you again. And it continues all the way up to the 6Ks. And it's not that people get less retarded, they just get more skilled mechanically. They get better at playing the game. And some of the people that are really good at the game don't have all that much knowledge about it. They just happen to be good at video games. That's perfectly acceptable. Along the same lines of that, though, somebody that did a really, really good documentary. I call it a documentary, but really it's a spreadsheet that he wrote out. And he kind of did the same things as the guy going up to 5,400 MMR. I don't know that he went quite as high. He went to 4,500. But the thing he did is he documented every single game in a spreadsheet. So I'll go ahead and drop that spreadsheet for you guys. If you're a 2K MMR player and you want a little bit of insight of somebody that's right above you, click in the 2K brackets up there and watch what he says about his teammates and about the enemy team about his own team, how they lacked in awareness and participation in team fights, and what he exploited to get past it, what he did right that they were doing wrong. That's one thing I think he really brings to it. And it would be nice to see one that goes all the way up to the high 5Ks and high 6Ks, somebody that goes from the bottom up examining it. But that would be a lot of time. And of course, time is always donated in these sorts of instances. So what can you really do? But that is a really good resource, I think. Certainly check that out if you have the chance. And he goes through the 3Ks and into the 4Ks. So even if you're a 3K player, check out what he says about the 3K games. Of course, some of them he's like, man, it was just a tough game. My team was feeding and I made a mistake and then that was it. And of course, that's okay. You know, it's acceptable to have just a really tough game. Even the guy that went back to 5,400, he only had like an 89% win rate. He lost maybe 22 or 23 games. And he's like, you know, I could have picked a different hero and maybe won this, but mistakes were made and, you know, I moved on. I'm not trying to have a 100% win rate. I was just trying to prove a point. I'm better than them. I'm going to move up. And he proved it. He proved it pretty good. Along the same lines as that, though, as recently as today, so 2 hours ago, if you check out Reddit, we already have people, why MMR just doesn't work. You're going to have these people all the time. It's just going to blame your team. The important thing to take from this, guys, the very most important thing you can take. If you blame your team, you don't have to play with your team every single game. Dota 2 has 9 other random people matched with you when you solo matchmake. And the next game, you're going to have 9 other random people. I've played all the way up to the high 4Ks, where the player pool gets significantly smaller, and I still hardly ever see same people in a match. I might see one other person that I recognize maybe every now and then, and now I play a lot less, and I've moved down a significant amount into a larger player pool, so it's even worse now. I see brand new people every single game, which means those 9 other people, as much as they suck, you can flame them, you can give them advice. That doesn't change game 2 for you. That changes the game that you're in, and then that game's wiped out and you move on. Any of the advice that you're not applying to yourself doesn't help you. You need to remember that. You're the only one on that team that you have to play with every single game. And a lot of people forget that. And the more excuses you make, the more hindrance to yourself you're providing in Dota 2. The sooner you can just go, you know what? Guys, it's time for me to get better. It's time for me to learn what I'm doing wrong. I want to be a 3K player now. And you start doing stuff to be a 3K player. Then maybe you say, I want to be a 4K player, and you move up. I watched Moon Meander just last night. I think it was last night. He picks up Axe. His Shadow Shaman just straight up starts feeding and rage quits the game. So he starts playing the Shadow Shaman as well as Axe. His team starts to feed Shadow Shaman. He goes, no, guys, y'all are going to cost me the game. And he plays Shadow Shaman and he plays Axe. And he 4v5s and kills an enemy team one by one by one. He made the right item decisions. He made big plays. And he just straight up man carried 4v5 as Axe. And you have to look at it and say there's a definite skill gap here between him and all the 5K players in this game. That's why he's 6K. That's why he's 6K on 2 accounts, not just one, but 2 accounts. So it's something to think about. Just kind of mull it over and, you know, maybe remind yourself that, hey, I'm just bad and that's okay. And if you want to get better, get better. But don't use your teammates as a crutch. It's unfair to them and it's unfair to you. So on the lines of that, I want to go straight back into the compendium. We were talking about the 10 mil prize pool coming out with Dota 2 Compendium. And of course, all the new players this is bringing in, it's going to bring more people flaming each other and more people for you to play with that have no bearing on your next game. The larger the player pool gets, the less often you have to see those people you hate. So you should be rejoicing to that. 10 million prize pool, more viewers, more players, more Dota 2. Along with that, somebody's put out a great album on Imager. The evolution of all the teams coming into Dota 2 TI4. And let me go over to that really quick for you. So right here, for example, can I make these bigger? Can I see view full resolution? Here we go. So for example, Team Titan, we've got Ice from Orange. He retired. Miracle went to Scythe. Then Yamate is now the one on Orange. They've got one of these for every single team. So you see Vici Gaming, Newbie, Navi, of course, it's just straight lines. I mean, they haven't changed. But this is really helpful for people who can't keep track of where all these players are coming from and where they've seen the players. I think it's going to be a useful tool for the casters going into it as well, if they be sure to actually check this out. So something really cool for you guys. It's just kind of a little gimmick. Along with that, wanted to talk about Dota 2 updates has announced Brazil is coming to TI4. We have brought the Portuguese casters from Brazil. I think it was, what is it, PRD? I saw the caster social channel on Skype lighting up. They're like, congrats Brazil, congrats Brazil. I had to go find out what was going on. I thought some Brazilian team had just got like a direct invite to TI4 to replace somebody else or something. I was like, what's going on, guys? And I look, and it's like, the Brazilian casters get to come. We're going to have Dota 2 in Portuguese. So anybody that's a native of Brazil, or even Portugal, maybe we got some Portugal Dota 2 players out there. You speak Portuguese as well, even though it's a little bit different Portuguese. Maybe they'll flame me and say Brazilian Portuguese isn't true Portuguese, just like the UK guys make fun of American English versus proper English. But it's Portuguese, guys. It's Portuguese. We're going to have Portuguese casters from Brazil casting TI4. So there you go. We've got more casters. I think they got Spanish casters that they announced today as well. And on top of that, coming out from China, I want to flip back over to this. China is now advertising with videos the Dota 2 tournament like the World Cup. So really big that China is actually putting out these advertisements, popularizing Dota 2. What's important about this is, honestly, China is like one of the biggest esports markets that's really hard to tap into. And if they're actually getting behind as a country and backing Dota 2, it means Dota 2 stands a really good chance of edging League of Legends out of the market, which is important for us as growth is concerned. It's not important as in Dota 2 will fail if it doesn't get rid of League of Legends, but there's a large player base in League of Legends that needs to be tapped for Dota 2 to grow further. Because right now they're sharing a player base, and if Dota 2 can edge in on that and pull some out, then it means our prize pools gets bigger, we get even bigger tournaments, more players, more teams, more excitement in Dota 2. The more money there is, the more production value you can expect to see. So China puts out this World Cup video. If you guys want to see that, I found it on Kotaku, and I'll go ahead and throw that out here for you. There's the Kotaku link for all of you guys. And yeah, so cute little video, lots of cheering, and it doesn't really say much, but it's about getting the hype out there. China is getting excited for TI4, and that's what we want to see. We want China to be excited. We need Korea and Southeast Asia to get as excited as China is. But China's a good start, because China's like big brother to the rest of those countries, as far as I can tell. Of course, I'm the outsider, so they might tell me it's otherwise. Maybe they're like, we hate China, but that's okay. Speaking of China, the Games tournament, we talked about it yesterday. We're like, hey, DK is going to be playing Speed later today. And then, of course, IG and Newbie playing off. I think IG and Newbie had already played off. Newbie was waiting in the finals. Speed Gaming did lose to DK 2-0. So coming up tomorrow, we've got a big match, DK versus Newbie. Now, DK versus Newbie, you're like, oh, this is pretty traditional. That's what's so exciting about Chinese Dota. It's DK, Newbie, and IG. These teams are just constantly winning against each other, and it always feels like you're seeing them in the finals, but it's never like, oh, it's DK versus Newbie and then DK wins. No, it's DK versus Newbie, and is Newbie going to win or DK going to win? You just don't know. All of these teams are at the top of their game going into TI4. IG as well. I think IG actually just came out on top. Let's see, what tournament is this? GEST Challenge title. They came out on top of Newbie in round 3, beating them out 2-0. So straight out victory over Newbie. And this is right after IG beat DK just the other day 3-1 in a grand finals. And then DK has beat Newbie. I think their last victory was on what was it, 2-0 or was it 3-2? It was a 3-2 victory actually. It was a full 5-game series. And so DK beat Newbie, Newbies beat DK, Newbies beat IG in this tournament, the V Games tournament. I believe Newbie came out over IG. Yeah, they 2-0'd IG to go into the finals. IG's beating out Newbie, IG's beating out DK, DK's beating out both of the other teams. All of these teams are just duking it out, and you never know who's going to come out on top. This is really scary for Western Dota players and Western Dota fans because these Chinese teams are constantly grinding against each other and perfecting themselves. Like they have so many tournaments. How many tournament finals have we had in like the past week in Eastern Dota? It has been insane the amount of matches they played, and it hasn't just been regular, just old, oh, I'm playing against some no name team in China. No, this has been the top of the top playing against each other constantly leading up to TI4. And I wonder if that's calculated out of these tournament organizations. I wonder if China is looking at this going, we want our teams to be in top shape going into TI4. We are going to give them as much tournament experience as possible against each other. And this is so much better than a scrims because when you win, you're getting paid. Let's be honest. You know, scrims are for free. Although I have heard rumors, these are rumors, mind you. I have heard rumors that you have to pay to play if you want to scrim against the top Chinese teams. Now, it may just be the little guys. It might just be the little guys who got to pay to play. Maybe the big guys have special circumstances like Navi, EG, all of them. I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard rumors you got to pay to play, so who knows? Maybe it does pay to scrim if you're IGDK or newbie. Along those lines, though, Western Dota not sitting slack. We had EG play Navi today in a 3-game sweep in the D2L. For those of you who didn't catch it, that is on twitch.tv/D2L. I'm pretty sure they've probably highlighted those games. I don't know if there's a YouTube channel for that, but you can definitely go check those out on twitch.tv/D2L. I know they have a D2L channel. 3-game sweep for EG. They are just playing phenomenally right now. I am so surprised because Mason, it feels like they've been putting in 100% Brewmaster as of late. And he has been doing a great job stepping up. When he first started playing Brewmaster competitively, when they started picking it for him, it was really rough. But you could tell they didn't care. They needed him to have Brewmaster as a hero for TI4. And what better way to do it than in grand finals of tournaments? I mean, you're not going to get better experience than this. With the pressure behind you, everything on the line. And this is going straight into ESL 1. So I was talking about all these Chinese tournaments coming out and how they're having a great time matching off against each other. Western Dota has ESL 1 coming up here this Friday, and I think that's going to be the big tell of how the Western teams are and what the Western Dota fans can expect going in the International 4. If you look at the schedule coming out, we're going to have IG versus Mouse Sports. We're going to have Vici versus Fnatic, Alliance versus Cloud9, and Navi versus EG right off the bat on the main stage. This is going to be some huge matchups. And again, it's IG that's here. IG, again, going to get this in-depth experience. And I think that may just benefit them going into the International 4. So they just came off some victories against DK, against Newbie, and now they get to play against all the Western teams as well. You can't ask for any better setup than that going into TI4. And I'm excited because I really enjoy IG as a team. They're one of my favorite teams. I've always cheered for them. I cheer for IG, I cheer for Ice, and of course I cheer for EG. I've never been a DK fan. I've been an Ice fan. So I cheer for Ice during DK games. I don't care if DK wins or loses. I just like watching Ice play. And that might sound kind of weird, but that's just how I am. And of course I cheer for EG. They're my North American team. They're all we've got. They're America's last hope for Dota 2. And we want to be vindicated. We're tired of the Europeans taking the title from Seattle and carrying it overseas. Even China's had a chance to carry it with them. It's time for North America to keep it in North America. We want that $1 million prize pool. I guess it's going to be a $10 million prize pool now. We want instant millionaires. People living the American dream. You can play Dota 2 and you can get rich doing it. That's what I want to see this TI4. And EG is in a good place to make that happen. So along with ESL 1 schedule coming out for this Friday, they've also released their shop. For those of you interested, we do have ESL shirts and other merchandise available. So look, we got little Juggernaut masks, all sorts of cool little items coming out. So it's kind of neat. They're kind of following. I really like what ESL 1's doing. They learned from TI3. They said, what was successful with Valve? And we're going to do that. And the important thing about that, you might be, oh, it's just more stuff for us to waste money on. What's important about this is it means Dota 2 is merchandisable. Is that the right word? Is merchandisable what I'm trying to say? That's what I'm going to go with, and I hope you catch the meaning. What it means is you can make money hosting a Dota 2 event. And that means we're going to have more hosted events. You're going to have more sponsors putting in for these big events. Because ESL 1 isn't a tiny event. If you follow the prize pool trackers, I'll flip back over to that. The prize pool tracker for ESL 1, we're now up to $200,000. So they've raised over almost, what are we, over $50,000 for the ESL 1 prize pool. I think they actually have a compendium for ESL 1 as well. Yeah, $250 for every compendium. They're following exactly what TI3 did. They're selling compendiums, they're selling merchandise, and they're saying, look, we are going to make a lot of money hosting a Dota 2 tournament. That means any company can look at Dota 2 and say, I can make money doing this. I definitely want to get into this. Along those same lines, though, guys, the final bit of news for ESL 1 is on a bit more of a somber note. Eternal Envy, this poor guy, ESL has announced that they're not letting him go to the bathroom in between games. He is going to have to hold it. Eternal Envy, renowned for his small bladder and his frequent bathroom breaks in Dota 2. No, guys, I'm just making that up. I have no idea. I would honestly be upset about this too. I mean, there's just sometimes when you're like, guys, I really got to go to the bathroom. And I don't see why. It's like, is that a problem? Have people been going to the bathroom and have strategy talks with like somebody like, oh, hey, man, what's going on? Are they doing Roshan or something? I just needed to go pee and ask somebody in the audience if they were doing Roshan. I'm not really sure. Can't they just like segregate some player bathrooms or something? It doesn't make any sense to me. Every tournament in existence, as far as I know, lets people go to the bathroom. Hasn't the team always gotten up after the game on these LAN events, walked out of the room, and then come back in like 15 minutes later to get back in the desk again? I thought that was just a thing. So you would think going to the bathroom is part of that, but apparently not at ESL 1. They've decided bathroom breaks is unconstitutional in the world of Dota 2. So Dota 2 ESL 1, big prize pool. No bathroom breaks. That's the price you pay for a $200,000 prize pool. That's something I want to mention. $200,000. That is a big prize pool. And that is just one of the random tournaments that's popping up around TI4. That's not even our big tournament of the year. And then what was the Beyond the Summit one? It was up there as well. The actual Summit LAN finals down in California. Then we had the Dream League. I had to remember what they called it this year, the DreamHack tournament. Dream League. Big prize pools all around. When I first started in Dota 2, a big prize pool was $10,000. And then there was the $1 million international. And then it was like, oh, the $15,000. I think the defense for Join Dota was a huge tournament. It was like a $15,000 prize pool. And it had a ticket in game. And everyone was so excited. Now it's like a $15,000 prize pool. Navi's like, we're not even showing up if it's under 25,000. Of course, the Chinese teams are a little bit different. They show up if you have the right connections. Everybody shows up. It could be a 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. If it's a Chinese tournament, all the Chinese teams show up because it's how Ace handles it. For those of you who don't know, Ace kind of they're like the handlers of all the Chinese teams. They go through an organization and it handles all the esports and manages all the teams and sends them all out to the tournaments and everything. So really, you could call it simple or you could call it complicated. There's benefits and there's negatives. Either way you look at it. But the Chinese teams show up regardless of prize pool. But the Western teams, you're not getting a tier 1 team at a $5,000 tournament, most likely. You're not going to have Empire show up. You're not going to have Na'Vi show up. You're not going to have EG anymore. Used to have EG. Not anymore. Not anymore. They're big boys now. They are up there, shooting up there with the stars, and they are making the big bucks. And except for Dream League, the little bit of stumbling they had there from the lack of sleep, supposedly, we'll take them for their word though. Lack of sleep can ruin your Dota 2. But aside from Dream League, they've earned quite a bit of money, I think, over the past year, and they stand to earn quite a bit more. Assuming a top 8 finish in TI4, I don't see how they don't finish top 8. I really don't. I think they finished top 3 at least. I think you're looking at maybe DK. Man, it's tough. We'll say top 5 because it's like, honestly, I think top 3. I think it's going to be DK and EG are in the top 3. And the newbie and IG are fighting for one of those spots as well. One's going to take it from the other, in my opinion. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're fighting for the number 3 spot. They might be fighting for the number 1 spot. And then maybe DK and EG are fighting between 2 and 3. But I think DK and EG are both going to be in one of those top 3 slots. And that's quite a chunk of change coming out. Finishing top 3, if you look at the prize pool split, did they actually release the official split, or are we still working off of guesses? That's something I'm going to have to look into. But I do have Cyborg Matt's blog still up here. Let me go ahead and click over at TI4, see if he's got a split. We've actually got the distribution only for TI3. So number 3 should get, third place gets $1 million if it's the same split as last year. Second place gets $2 million. Third place gets 700, or fourth place gets 700,000. Fifth place gets 400,000. Sixth place 400,000. Seventh and eighth get 150,000. So I mean, you basically won TI1 if you come in third or higher. That's not a bad position to be in if you're EG. They are looking really strong. Mason has really stepped up the plate to practice these heroes that, you know, he used to be known as the one-hit wonder kind of. It's like Mason plays Morana. That was all he played. But he's been working so hard to play all these other heroes, and I'm honestly impressed because I didn't know if he could do it. And people underestimate the value that Fear brought to EG. They were like, oh, Fear, terrible carry. And, you know, there's lots of people that flame Fear. But what Fear brought to the team is he could play any hero in that carry position. He played that carry Tidehunter where he was farming up a fast Shivas and Blink and Refresher on Tidehunter faster than anybody else in the game was getting into their items. And you look at that and you're like, holy crap. Now that allows Arteezy to be in this middle lane undisturbed because you got a Tidehunter wrecking havoc at 10 minutes into the game. And that's not something you normally have, but that's what Fear. I consider Fear, previous to his elbow injury, of course. I don't know how he's going to look after his injury. A lot of people come back from injuries and they just never play the same again. I consider Fear the #1 utility player in the world because I feel like he could play any hero at the highest level in the Dota 2 player pool. I think you could stick him in any role on any hero that you needed on your team, and Fear could fill that void. And there's not, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 other people in the world that can do that. Of course, I'm going to hype my boy Ice Ice Ice. Ice 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 can do that as well, and you often see that. You see him filling in the holes that he needs to fill for DK. So I think that's what really draws me to those players, why I enjoy supporting them. Also, in other news, we've got some more TI4 announcements coming out that I wanted to get to for you guys. We got some good, some bad. Starting out, we've got some people, of course, for those of you who don't know, we have some announcements about people coming to TI4. Milk, of course, Twitter always wants me to block people when I press 2 on my numpad. I don't understand why that's a hotkey. Why would I want to block people with my numpad in Twitter? But Milk is officially coming to TI4. I don't know if this is an actual Valve invitation or not, but if you're a Milk fan, if you love the 020 Venomancer that could, he's gonna be there, guys, so be sure to get your autographs from this guy. I hope he's doing more analysis. I really like his analysis. He knows a lot about Dota 2, even if he has trouble executing now that he's been kind of out of the scene for a while. Kind of like Synderen, I kind of consider them on the same scale, where they know so much, but their execution just isn't quite there anymore. And for those of you who don't know, I'll go ahead and give you the list. But here's all the casters and personalities alongside the teams. Join Dota did a really nice list and compilation of all the people that are going to be showing up. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll link that for you all to just go ahead and see. Make sure your favorite guys coming. If any of you happen to be going to TI4, just so you know who you can expect to see. Get your autographs while you're there. My personal favorites, we're going to have Merlini there. We're going to have Cinder, and we're going to have Toby1. How could you not love Toby1? That guy is amazing. He's actually the guy that got me into Dota 2. I actually, in early 2011, I was hanging around reading about Dota, and he was just starting up his website, joindota.com. He was just brand new website. He was working on it. It was in the beta. And I was chatting around, and I was like, so what's the difference between Han and Dota that I can expect coming over? Toby1 comes into my thread and he goes, why don't you tell me yourself? Gives me 3 keys. So I'd give 1 to my brother, 1 to my best friend, and I've been playing Dota 2 ever since. Never went back to Han. So I haven't touched Han in 3 years, but I still consider myself Han trash as I venture throughout Dota 2. But always deep love in my heart for Toby1. He's what got me into Dota because I originally started in Han. I played Dota 1. But Dota 1 for me was roommate's best friend playing Dota. And I would stop by and I'd be like, what you doing? He's like, I'm playing Dota. And then he'd step out of the room and be like, hey, take over for me. And I would never have any idea which hero or unit I was. I'd be running around. I'm sure I was just feeding like crazy. My team was flaming me. I'm sure they probably banned him from every game I ever played in for him. They're like, man, this guy sucks. We don't want him in our Dota games. That's my Dota 1 experience. So I have Dota experience, but it was me just being a complete and utter trash noob, not having any idea what I was doing. I played a lot of StarCraft mini maps. I played a lot of the, what was it, Helm's Deep. For those of you guys who used to play Brood War, I used to play a whole lot of that Helm's Deep running in. I'd like to be, everybody fought over being Legolas. Everybody wanted to be Legolas and get all the kills. But no, I often ended up as being the Zerg that were rushing in and trying to siege the walls. So lots of fun in those. I didn't play a lot of the Dota style mini maps. I did play some Bunker Wars, but I missed out on the Dota craze back then. I never got into it back then. Han really got me into the whole Dota environment. And I had a lot of fun in Han. When I tried it out in the early beta of Han, I stuck with it and I was terrible. I went down to 1200 MMR right away. Me and my brother were using spells to farm creeps, getting flamed by our team, and we're like, what's wrong with using spells to farm creeps? But we started to learn how to be good. We moved up to the 1600s and higher, 1700s, 1800s, and then I got into Dota 2, and I'm like, yes, I get to play Dota 2, and it was terrible. There was latency for every movement that you made, and I was like, what is wrong with this game? This is awful. But I stuck with it, and I had fun, and I wrote up guides on like, hey, this is my experience as a Han player coming to Dota 2, and I have just enjoyed my experience in Toby. Toby 1 is the guy that got me into it. He is the one that moved me from Han to Dota 2, and I am forever grateful for that. And I love the guy's casting. He brings so much excitement to every single match that he casts, and I don't think there's many people that can do that. A lot of people start to get into a match and they're like, oh man, how can the other team come back? This team's already won, 10 minutes in, GG. And there's nothing more annoying, in my opinion, than early GGs in a game. Because then you're like, well, why am I watching the game? Or then you're like, why are we playing? If you're already GG and done, you're calling GG at 5 minutes. You're not even going to try? This is a team game, dude. Don't leave us 4v5. There's people that do that, and there's casters that do that as well. And there's nothing more depressing than watching a game that's already lost, according to the casters. Toby 1 makes the thing exciting to the very end, and he's always upbeat, and I don't know how he does it, especially during Chinese Dota. Let's be honest, I get so tired if I cast a Chinese game. Even watching a Chinese game, if I want to take a nap, I'm going to watch some Chinese Dota. And there was a while, there was like the 6.78 patch, I think, where Chinese Dota got super exciting and intense and was 20-minute games. No, that's gone. Not anymore. You're talking 50 minutes and then maybe 30 kills in the whole game, and then the game's over. It's just a slow and steady push. Meticulous, calculated Dota, and it's clean Dota. That's what it is. There's no mistakes for people to exploit. But at the same time, they don't take the risks that might give them the huge rewards. And I think that's an advantage for Dota 2 and Western Dota, as well as its weakness. Because if you make that risk and it doesn't pay off, then it's hard to come back against a Chinese team because they never give you any openings to come back. They just slowly gain ground, and you really have to wrestle it away from them if you want to take it back. And that's why the teams that do well so aggressively. And I'm excited. Let me tell you, the team I'm excited about is Alliance. And I think they're really going to shine coming into ESL 1. I think that's when we're going to find out how Alliance is going to do in TI4. They've been kind of weak the past few months. But the past couple of weeks, watching Alliance's playstyle has been phenomenal. Admiral Bulldog is back on heroes that Admiral Bulldog knows how to play. They are playing aggressive. They are playing a new style of rat Dota that is just blowing people out of the water. And I want to see how it holds up against the world at ESL 1. And I want to see how they do going into TI4. I'm excited for them because I was afraid they were going to taper off after they got nerfed into the ground. But it looks like they found a new way to play their heroes. They've made things work in their favor. And I think they stand a good chance of being one of the top contenders for TI4 now, where 2 months ago I would have told you, no, Alliance maybe top 8. Who knows? Trash team now. But no, they are playing phenomenally. Little bit of sad news to follow up the invites, though, for TI4. I just want to go ahead and throw this out there, guys. CIS and Aero Gaming had their visas denied. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they won't be showing up at TI4. It just means their visas are denied right now, and if they don't get this fixed, they won't be at TI4, which means 2 more teams will be taking their place most likely. But these teams have earned their place. You don't want them being replaced because of visa issues. So hopefully Valve's able to sort it out. I would assume a $10 million because it's a pretty big event. When you're talking millions of dollars, that's something that Seattle, you're going to have a representative from Seattle. For those of you who don't know how politics works in the United States, there's going to be a representative from Seattle going, look, this is a big commerce thing for me. We need to push these visas through. We need to make this go off without a hitch. So somebody's going to be pulling for Valve in the politics in Washington, D.C. So I have faith that somehow we'll get these visas working because it doesn't seem to be a team issue. It seems to be a U.S. government issue, and maybe we'll get that sorted out. So we will have to see. CIS, though, as of right now, CIS and Aero Gaming, both in limbo on whether or not they're going to be able to compete for $10 million. Now, whether or not they're actually a top contender for Spot 1, I don't believe. But even if they get top 8, I was talking about this, that's $100,000 in their pocket. And that puts them in a good position to go for another year and compete for TI5. That's the big thing a lot of people don't realize, I think. You don't have to win TI4 to put yourself in a good position to live till TI5. Because a lot of these people aren't able to do Dota 2 for a living. Or if they do, they're barely scraping by. And if they can get comfortable, it means they can invest more hours into Dota 2, which means better gameplay, better experience. After a whole nother year of working together with a team who's feeling happy about placing top 8, you're going to have high morale going into these big LAN events throughout the next year. And maybe with that experience, you can be a top contender in the next year. So we'll just have to wait and see how the development turns out. I do want to go ahead, though, and top this off with a community spotlight. I'm going to try and spotlight a few community things coming out as I end up my cast each and every day. If I can find them to fill the days, we might not have these every single day. But to finish off this Tuesday, I was talking about Moon Meander. One of the players, he comes from Han. He starts out at about 4,500 MMR. I know he started out around there because I used to play against him in pubs. Sometimes I'd catch him and I'd play against him, and I would literally, like, if I saw him in a game, I would pick Lion, I'd build a Dagon, and I'd focus him all game just because I thought it was hilarious to just focus down Moon Meander. And then, of course, you know, if they lost, he'd rage quit off of Steam, and I'd be like, yes, I made Moon Meander rage quit. So that was like the highlight of my Dota playing experience, probably about 2 years ago. But Moon Meander has come from Han officially to Dota 2. He's working on a team. Dream Destroyers is actually what his team's called right now. You might know some of the other players in there. B-Kid, most notably, if you're a Heroes of New Earth former player or have any experience with those players at all. They're starting to come over. Peter Pan Dam, of course, PPD, on EG, former Han player. Used to play with all of them in the Han competitive scene. Came over a little earlier than Moon Meander. Moon Meander, though, he's finally over here, and he's in the 6Ks. He has learned Dota 2. He's focused on learning these heroes, really put in the effort, and he's doing a great job. He's got the skill, and if he can just find the top teams to play on, I think he's in solid position to actually make an appearance at TI5, so we'll have to see. He is playing on Dream Destroyers. They've been doing quite a few of the amateur tournaments in like Brazil and North America, and a few of the smaller European tournaments, so you might catch them here or there. But he did an interview, and his interview is actually posted on Join Dota. So for those of you interested, I'll go ahead and toss the link over here for you all. And really in-depth interview. I think some of the highlights is we kind of started off the stream talking about the MMR trench. And Moon Meander actually covers a little bit of that. He talks about, sometimes as a player, and a lot of people really consider Moon Meander a troll, but occasionally there's actually a lot of wisdom that he spouts out, kind of in a trollish fashion. And one of the things he really talks about is how, as a player, you just have to put in the time and the effort, and you can become better than other people. That you don't have to be some special person. You just have to put the effort in. And a lot of people don't put the effort in. But in this particular interview, he goes over actually what I was talking about, the differences between Han and Dota 2, and his experiences as a Han player coming into Dota, and how he thinks his transition into the professional scene will go. So for those of you who are looking to become professionals, I think this could be really important to you, because this guy has actually been successful in the things that he tries to do, and now he's on a semi-professional team. So you might look at it and say, well, maybe if I follow in his footsteps, I can get on a semi-professional team and then maybe a professional team later on. So keep track of what he's doing. He talks about the edges that Han gave him, but he also talks about coming into professional Dota and how he thinks what he's going to have to encounter to, like, for example, your transition from Han to Dota 2 is uncommon among esports and professionals. What was the single biggest hurdle? Biggest hurdle for Moonmander: learning and mastering the most popular heroes, which were hard to play, such as Invoker and Ember Spirits. Those heroes were not in Han, so I had to learn every ability from scratch. I picked those 2 heroes for a week and got labeled a picker. He literally played those heroes solid for a week. Arteezy does the same thing. For those of you who follow Arteezy's stream, he needed Wind Ranger recently, the past month or so. He's needed Wind Ranger to be in his player pool for the drafts that they wanted to draft. He played 2 solid weeks of nothing but Wind Ranger at 6k MMR. I don't think there is a more tough learning environment than sticking yourself out there as a Wind Ranger player and saying, hey guys, come and gank me. I'm Arteezy and I'm a Wind Ranger, who wasn't his best hero. So it's not his Tinker, it's not his Naga, but he's going to get ganked like it is, and he's going to be playing Wind Ranger that entire time. He stuck through it for 2 solid weeks of Wind Ranger straight, and now you see him showing up at professional level grand finals, popping out the Wind Ranger and being successful. That's what it takes. That's what Moonmeander talks about. He had to play Ember Spirit. He had to play Invoker. He said, this is what my team needs to be able to pick. This is what I've got to be able to play as a mid player for my team. So you got to think about that. What's your role? What do you need to be able to play? And he talks about the tournaments and prize pools. He specifically talks about going into major tournaments. His plan: starting out and scrimming the tier 2 teams, get a feel for the competitive scene. Once we feel we're strong enough, we'll tackle the bigger teams. As for now, we're just playing in any amateur tournaments we can get into. So, I mean, that's what you want to look for. He's not looking to take on Na'Vi right off the bat. He's found himself a series of steps that can get him into professional Dota 2. Really something important for you guys to look out for if you're trying to get into this more professional environment going into Dota 2. So really good interview. If you want to check that out, of course, I posted the link for all of you to check it out. There's a lot of good information there. Of course, check out Moonmeander's stream. A lot of the time, it's just going to be him making big plays in pubs, but occasionally you'll catch Speech Meander, as he likes to call it, as he dubs it. When Speech Meander comes out, check it out. There's going to be a lot of trolling, a lot of laughing, but he's going to say some things that actually have some meaning behind them as well. And it's definitely worth listening to. And to go ahead and finish that off, there's a nice little community video that I found earlier today. I'll go ahead and copy paste this into the chat for you guys. This will be the community spotlight to end the evening. There's a nice little YouTube video for those of you who support Fnatic. I think you might enjoy this little video. He just kind of threw together a little montage. It's called Supporting Fnatic. I won't spoil the ending or anything, but it's a pretty funny little video to just take some time and watch, and I think you guys will enjoy it. I certainly enjoy it. Nice little dings coming out now when I click my keyboard. But guys, this is episode 2 of FletchDota. That's all I've got for this evening. We're coming just about on the hour mark. We're just shy of an hour. We've been running right about 50 minutes for the whole thing. I am Fletch, at FletchDota on Twitter. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitch to find out when I go live. I will be posting the VODs of every single episode on YouTube. Be sure, guys, message me on Twitch, message me on Twitter, send me an email, masterfletch@gmail.com. Maybe leave me a comment in the YouTube videos. I check all of that stuff. And if you're able to leave me messages there with what you think should be included, if you see something cool that you think should be on FletchDota, send it to me and maybe it'll be included in the next episode. I'll take your comments, I'll take your criticisms, and I'll certainly try to apply them. This is a brand new experience for me. This is a baby that I'm looking to grow into a full-fledged program for us all to enjoy. And of course, I will be finishing this off, guys, but I won't be going. So for those of you viewers who want to hang around, I've decided that, hey, how do we close up the night? I will be closing it off with a game of Dota and some interaction with the chat. So those of you who want to just hang around and kind of chat with me, have a little bit of a viewer experience, feel free to hang around. I'll be playing some pubs, and I'll just be answering questions if you guys have it, or if you want some direct feedback. If you're like, hey, I've got an idea for FletchDota and I want to just throw it at you right now, now's the time to do it. Throw it into the chat. Here's some direct feedback from me and we can have a discourse. But anyways, guys, that's going to be the end of the official show. Thanks for watching tonight, episode 2, FletchDota.